Welcome to GEBC's Conscious Book Club, and today we're continuing, and we're almost at the end of reading a very good book called Keys to Unlocking Your Inner Power by Kelly Larsen. And so today our focus is on chapters 13, 14, and 15. Chapter 13 is about relationships, chapter 14 is about meditation, and chapter 15 is about accessing powerful entities. So what we're going to do today is that we're going to work our way backwards. We're going to start at chapter 15 and work our way backwards. The reason for this, because I really believe that when you begin to have and develop an awareness of divine beings and begin to have contact with divine beings, you want to know how to do that, and also it'll begin to affect your everyday relationship with yourself and other people. Mm-hmm. And so we'll work our way backwards that way. So let's get started. One of the things that I really did like, a comment that Kelly said in chapter 15 about accessing powerful entities, is that if you really want them, I'm not going to quote her directly, but the fact remains that if you really want to make advances in your spiritual life, it really begins when you begin to achieve contact, begin to achieve and experience communication with divine beings, higher beings from a higher world, a higher reality. We would call that, some tradition will call that, you will call that angelic beings. And so I think that's a very important thing. And that experience alone changes your reality. It changes everything. When you begin to realize that you are not alone, when you begin to realize that there's more to reality than what your five senses pick up. Most people are convinced that the only reality is the reality that they can see, hear, taste, smell, touch. Mm-hmm. And that's all that and you would think that would be weird, particularly people that are in some type of spiritual tradition, some type of church. Mm-hmm. Because we talk about the ultimate extraterrestrial, which is God. And I have found in my own personal experience working with people in religious orders, particularly in Christian religious orders, that people act like and get very shocked and surprised when you talk about spirits, when you talk about attaching spirits, when you talk about angels in their life, using angels in their life, communications with other higher forms of reality in the higher worlds. That's been my experience. But throughout the Bible, if you will, you have episodes where people encounter an experience with beings from another dimension. Right. Moses saw a burning bush, mm-hmm. and an angel spoke out that burning bush toward him. In the book of Kings, you see where an old prophet, Elisha, and a young prophet were concerned about an approaching army, and the young prophet was kind of terrified and didn't know what to think and didn't know what to do. And the old prophet prayed and asked that his eyes be open. And when his eyes became open, he saw that he was surrounded by chariots of fire. These were angelic beings. When you read the Christmas story or the Jesus story about the birth of Jesus, the shepherds, while they were watching their sheep, were met by a heavenly host. All throughout the Bible experience, from the beginning to the end, you encounter these supernatural, these extraordinary beings that have contact with them. But there's more than just angels. There are ascended masters. There are other deities. There's this whole realm of experience that is possible for us to have contact with. So let me just start there. That was some of the things I took out of the book. Freddie, let me start with you. Why did that chapter intrigue you so much?
I mean, for some of the things you just said, I mean, you people, church going people who talk about the angels and God Himself, limit themselves or stay in one place when it comes to exploring other entities or other higher life forms.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things in the chapter that Miss Larsen wrote about was getting in tune with the higher aspect of yourself, which is a direct reflection of the source. And she discussed ways to kind of contact or become one with the higher aspect of self.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a good starting point before you even get into. I mean, she talked about the angels and some other things, but touching on that, I think that was the first thing, the first level that you should try to explore is the high aspect of self.
Yeah. Have any of you ever felt like or had the personal experience of having some type of communication that goes beyond the normal, where you felt like that the information was being downloaded into your conscious mind, or you may have had a vision or a dream or something that was so real, that it was not of this worldly dimension, or it was not of this particular third dimensional reality. It was something that kind of woke you up to the reality that there's a spiritual world. Any of you?
Well, I feel like I've had visitors, and when I first had that visitor, of course I wasn't ready mentally. It scared me, and all I could think of is just to pray, and maybe it was something scary that I watched. And honestly, that's the reason why there's certain movies that are out there that I do not like to watch. I don't even like to watch the previews of it. But and even just reading some of this last night, I had to put it up because my mind gets to going, because I truly believe in other beings. I do believe in that. And but like I said, I've had some visitors, and when I had that visitor, I wasn't ready for it. So I feel like I am definitely preparing myself once I receive, visitors or other visitors again. So.
I would say here lately, as of late, with us, digging deeper into spirituality as a whole, and then finding out that they're actually light beings and orbs of light. At times here lately, when I close my eyes, I can see just sharp beams of light, just kind of shoot across my eyelids. This morning before I left work, I closed my eyes for a second, and that's all I saw was like, just streams of light going up and down. That was the first time that's ever happened to me, but I could say that I feel like it's because of the studying that we're doing here, the things, the research, and the knowing of what's going on, and I think something is trying to make itself known to me.
Right.
And I'm paying attention. I'm paying attention to this. Here at the church, a few of you guys, I know all you guys have had like doing meditation, some revelations, or something spiritual would happen with you, and the book talk about not being jealous of someone else's spiritual level. You're not on their level. But I was kind of envious of that. Everybody had their their account where they had this encounter, but I feel like that was mine. Like I've had other things happen throughout my life, and through reading this book, I know I can point them out now. But those sharp lights, put a smile on my face. It made me feel like something was trying to communicate with me, or someone, or some type of light being was trying to contact me for the first time.
Right.
And like I said, I know it's because of my awareness now. Now I'm looking. Now I'm actually doing my mantras. Now I'm rooting myself deeper into the spiritual aspects of life.
You're beginning to open up parts of your awareness that can receive more information. You know, it's like having you ever seen those computers or whatever that who only have a certain kind of bandwidth, and they can only take in a certain amount of information, and when information that's too much for that particular capacity that they have, the program begins to it stops. You know, like trying to get online, it moves slowly. But the more you begin to broaden the pathways of your mind and begin to open up, you can take in more information. See, I think a lot of times, this may sound strange to people, but a lot of times it can be understood in some very simple things. For example, just because you don't see something does not mean it's not there.
Oh, yeah.
And just because you don't hear something does not mean a sound has not been made. How can I prove that? Well, you ever had a dog whistle? Okay? Well, you blow the whistle to human eyes, they can't pick up the range of sound that's imperceptible to their ears. But to the dog, or to a whale, or to a dolphin, or whatever, they can pick up those sounds, the intricacies of the sound. Light is the same way. The visible light spectrum is within a certain, I think a nanometer is how they measure it. You know, it's within a certain range. But you have infrared on one end, and you have gamma rays and ultraviolet rays, which are forms of light, on another end. You know, when they put, you know, you go to get a test and they do some type of evaluation of your body, the man stands behind some type of protective shield because there's a form of light that is actually being radiated into your body, and he does not want to be contacted or contaminated by it, even though you are.
Yeah.
And so, but the fact is that there's more to our reality than what meets the ear and what meets the eye. Therefore, it's important that you have to attune what they call your inner ear and your third eye, your inner eye. Yeah. Anybody else want to make a comment on that? You got something you want to add to that, Shelley?
I was just going to say on the point that Freddie made about the fact that now, after he's, you know, read some things, that now he's aware that he's had experiences with other entities and things. And I think that's probably very common for a lot of people, that people have had experiences and visits and communications with other beings and entities, and they just don't realize it. It may have happened in what seemed like a dream, or what was a dream, or a voice that, you know, they may have heard in their head, and they, you know, really thought it was them, and it wasn't. You know, it was a higher being or a higher form of themselves speaking to them, you know. And I know, you know, you were saying, like, now, the more you're studying, the more, you know, these experiences are happening. And I think that is very true. But I know for, like, myself personally as a child, I can, you know, recall having different types of experiences with what, you know, seemed like different entities or beings and things that I can remember happening, that now, like you said, when you look back on it, then you realize, okay, that was, you know, that wasn't just me freaking out and going to tell my mama the boogeyman was in there. It may have actually been, you know, if it happened, you know, on occasion enough. So.
One of the things that Kelly brings out in chapter 15 is about some kinds of beings. There are beings operating in the lower world that are unseen. Those out in the higher world.
Right.
Okay. So we talk about extraterrestrials. So how do you feel about that? The idea that there is life on other planets and other worlds. How do you feel about that?
Well,
here is some information about what we talk about when we talk about love.
I've always thought to myself that the Earth couldn't be all that there is.
Right.
You know, whenever I was young and I found out about space exploration, and then I grew up watching Star Trek. I was a Trekkie, hello my fellow Trekkies, but just seeing, looking at shows like that, and then I would tune in to what channel was that? Channel 2, the NASA station, and they'd be talking about things that were way over my understanding, but it still intrigued me that they were looking out into this black sky that was space and talking about certain things going on out there, picking up certain signatures and sound waves that are light years away. What's a light year? And now I'm thinking light years. There has to be something out there. So for Kelly to point that out in the book, it doesn't make me be like, okay, well now we're talking about ET and everything. No, it intrigues me, and she talked about how the Earth is putting off a certain signature or the energy flux, and that right, and that is attracting extraterrestrials. We were reading that on, and they're wanting to take advantage of this energy.
So people are seeing more UFOs and different beings. You hear a lot of people talking more about that within the past few years than you did in 1960 something.
Right, and it's a lot of things in this book that I consider to be huge. I would say huge, and to, I mean it's huge. For extraterrestrials to want to come and benefit from the energies that we're unaware of, that we're oblivious to, that we close our eyes to, that we don't even try to, associate with, or we don't.
Yeah, there are many phenomenons that our current religion and our current science does not want to accept or talk about. Therefore, a lot of people are just not aware. They have not opened their awareness to that.
And that's an irritating thing to me, to keep the people dumbed down, to not to want to publicize findings. We had a conversation some weeks ago, and I asked you a question about, do you think, that the powers that be, withhold information, and, do you think they know what's going on, really going on? And you were like, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah. And in some sense, people may have felt justified to not, matter of fact, there are reports, like the Brookings report, that actually made note of the fact that in the 1960s, there was a flotilla of what you would call extraterrestrials that appeared over Russia and Poland, and the Russians thought that it was us, and we thought that it was them, and actually it was neither one country. It was another entity, because they moved with such technological ease that neither country had that ability. And so they began to realize that there was something else that was actually involved in this. And they did a study to see what was the social and the theological or religious implications if there was full disclosure. And they discerned that, that the average human, and these are average American, it would truly change their reality. And they might not be able to handle it, but that is one of the things that's being questioned now, is the day after there's full disclosure, how life will change, the whole game change. One of the things that she talked about in the book was elementals. You have fire elementals, water elementals, air elementals, earth elementals, and these are one nature spirits that interact with the earth. And the 5 elements that make up our reality. And so I remember, I'm going to share this story, I remember when Dr. Gibson first came here and did a seminar at the church. And after his appearance, people started getting pictures of elementals. And he actually told me, he said that's very common when he visits cities, these phenomena tend to happen. At one point in time, we have pictures of them. We have actually pictures of them, where people caught on camera. That's another thing people don't realize. The digital cameras can actually pick up a broader bandwidth of images. And that's why they show up on cameras. You can pick up orbs and these other beings, that kind of like that, in that experience of taking snapshots, and they'll show up in your picture. You know, orbs. You may see orbs on some of your pictures. It's always good to look at. You know, to be able to see it. Let me see what else. But another thing that I found very intriguing that she wrote about was how many times these at the higher level of beings would form group consciousness. They wouldn't lose their individual personalities, but they would form group consciousness. Okay, there'd be a group that would interact, you know. And I thought that was so important, is that the higher you go in the spiritual world, she said in a book, something I hadn't thought about, she said that very few times do people actually interact with 6-dimensional beings, or higher than that. But many times these beings operate as a collective. In other words, the higher you go in your spiritual growth, the less individualistic that you are. They begin to form these they become group entities, you know. And I thought that was so important, because you see, even when you see, like in the Bible, you see them acting as a company, but they can take on a singular personality, but it's not separate from the group.
Right.
And I thought that was really important, because one of the things that's very difficult, we'll get into relationships, that's very difficult, is at the level that many people operate in this dimension, is to be able to have strong group consciousness. You know, but the lower you go, the more individualistic you think and are. I thought that was very important information she put in there.
Yeah, that makes me think about when we were talking about dreams in the previous chapter, and how some of these movie producers come up with the concept for some of these movies, and then I have to go to Star Trek again.
Yeah.
In Star Trek, there was this group of people called the Borg.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? The Borg. The Borg, they traveled in this big cube, and they all were connected. They were all one.
Right.
And one of the Borg would, you know, how they had the materializer thing where they could go from one ship to another. They just kind of beam over.
Yeah.
And but the Borg was over there on another ship. But everything he would say and do, and the way he was interacting with the people on the starship, the Borg knew it. They could hear it. They could feel it. You know, but you know, at that time he had his own individuality. It was over there. But everything, you know, he could feel, and then he would, like, they would inseminate people into their group, and they, you know, so
resistance is futile.
That even Captain Picard became. You remember they inseminated him, and every time the Borg would get close, he could feel them. Right. The Borg in there.
Do you know any being on this planet that acts like that? Bees.
Bees. Okay.
Beehives.
True.
Queen.
True.
They have a role. They are collective. True. Even though they have individual responsibilities, they operate as a collective.
That and the idea of working all as a group. I don't know if you guys have seen Ender's Game yet.
No, I haven't seen it yet. That's one
Ender's Game. It's a movie me and the boys and Jamie watched the other day, but both of those concepts are in the movie without giving it away. You know, that eventually for this young boy to, you know, be successful in, you know, his personal growth, and also as this warrior, he has to figure out how to bring his team together, how to bring himself together, and one of the things that they realize, the way that they have to defeat this alien who is an ant, really, basically, is that they have to destroy the queen.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And then speaking on the group thing, she talked about the attitude within the group, and us affecting like us affecting each other with negative energy coming into the group with the negative energy and how that affects us.
Right.
You know, even when we go our separate ways, we're still affected by that energy. And she said, and it says somewhere in the Bible, when one or two come together.
Yeah.
And the same concept.
Same concept. You know, if people can grab that, they can actually begin to do greater things rather than trying to do it individualistically. One other thing I want to add, then we'll shift, is she mentions, this is very important, that just because an entity is a higher being does not mean it is working for you. That it is nice. That it is friendly. So this goes back again to understand, so you won't be naive, to understand that you have to discern the spirits. You have to have an awareness. This is why it's important that you have to grow spiritually, where you can be able to discern between something that is malevolent, or what we call evil, and that which is benevolent, something that is good. Many people who get into this and begin to this, they're very naive, and they don't understand the importance of being able to discern. You know, they assume that because it's higher, that it is good. There are higher intelligences that are absolutely committed to evil and mischief.
Yeah.
So it takes a great deal of wisdom as you begin to deal with this too. Now, one of the ways in which you begin to broaden your perception is through meditation. And so in this study in chapter 14, a great deal was dealt with meditation. Now, so I'm gonna kind of get quiet here and kind of let y'all talk. Tell me what some of the things that you picked up in the chapter 14 that was very interesting about what is meditation, and then how to meditate.
Well, meditation is a very large variations of ways to calm yourself, relax, to heal, to see things, or to focus in on things that you're trying to tune in on, or and just the different styles of meditating. And with my experience with meditating, I have, and then of course we also take it out into the Taekwondo Center with our students, because you have so many children that are diagnosed with something. You know, if they can't sit still, basically don't think for themselves, you know, they want to give them a pill to calm them down. And so we're teaching our students and myself to just sit still, to, you know, and like she said in here, there's not one specific way to meditate. That's the reason why they call it a practice, because you're continuously practicing different types of meditating. And but what really interests me was the different positionings, like the way you sit, doing the lotus position. If you're going to lie down, just, and I think she was saying something about crossing your legs. You're closing off receiving a type of energy, or you holding in that energy. Just, you know, just knowing that even a child, like I said, can do a meditation. But it also, I didn't realize that if you do a certain meditation, if you're, I guess, not mentally ready, it can harm you.
Right.
I didn't realize that. I thought just meditating, period, was good. But I didn't realize that it can harm you if you're not mentally ready for it. But
yeah, it said something about help me out. What was the state of mind like if you were meditating and it overwhelmed your mind, you can find yourself stuck in a state of
probably psychosis.
Some type of psychosis, and so that makes you think about people with mental problems. It makes me think about people with mental problems, or that seem unstable.
You can get, it's like you get overwhelmed with too much light, too much information coming in, in a too small a sphincter.
Mm.
It's like you or put it this way, you have the inability to discern between one level of reality from another. They get mixed together, and so you're not able to distinguish the voices and the voice. You know, and I think that is what people have sometimes, and they don't have balance in their approach to this.
Right.
You know?
And I think, you know, on that topic that, you know, meditation is, like Flo said, a practice, and it's something that people have to take seriously. And I think that a lot of people have started to get to the point where it's kind of a fad thing, and they want to do it. They want to, right, yeah, they want to, you know, I meditate, you know, but you have to, it's something that you need to study, something that you need to, that it would be good that if you have the opportunity to have a teacher, somebody who can offer you guidance, to practice it in a group setting when you start off. Because like Freddie said, I know all of us have had experiences, and I know a lot of people who have had experiences that have frightened them, you know, when they've done meditations, because like Reverend Bullard was saying, is that information is coming in, and you don't know what this is. It's something new. You're hearing new things. You're seeing new things, and as you can have a Kundalini experience while, you know, you're going through meditation, and that can be not only you know, spiritually and mentally and emotionally dangerous, but it can be physically dangerous as well.
I was about to go into my girlfriend mode, baby. You know, that Kundalini meditation is something else. Like you say, you have to take these meditations seriously, because it can definitely take it slow.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's why I think, you know, as people share the experiences that they have through meditation, it's good to hear somebody's experiences that they have who have been meditating for a long time, but don't try to jump and get there, you know, to where they are from where you are. If you've, you know, never take your time and be okay with just the stillness, you know, that you're having. I know that's one thing that Miss Kathy told us before at a seminar, that one thing they asked their followers to do is to meditate.
Kathy Gibson, for folk who don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry, right. For at least 20 minutes a day, and just, you know, not doing anything, not necessarily listening to a certain meditation or for a particular purpose, but just to have that stillness.
Right.
You know.
And I would say that it's important that, you know, for me, the honorable core or the miracle prayer, and just allowing that to guide you into stillness is important. Meditation and prayer are different. Prayer is you talking to God. Meditation is when God or angels or higher beings begin to talk to you. And oftentimes, you know, the communication is impacted by your level of spiritual growth. That's why it's important to not confuse meditation with spiritual growth. You know, that's why it's important to understand that for some people, meditation is just simply about relaxing. And it has benefit. Lower your blood pressure, increase your immunity, affect your healing. But when you really start to go into certain meditations, I found a marked difference between, you know, breathing and being still and getting a physical boost of energy that happens when I first started meditating, versus when I really began to open myself up through certain practices of meditation that was associated with some of the CD meditations that Dr. Gibson put out. And I immediately knew the difference. And And that's why I gravitated toward a lot of the tapes that he provides as meditation tapes. They are very powerful meditations. The Breath of Seven is a very powerful meditation she talks about in the book. That is very good. One of the things I learned that's very important is that until I begin to experience it, is that you don't always breathe through both of your nostrils.
Yeah.
That
That
was
was
Sometimes and it rotates,
Yeah.
and it has something to do with what part of your brain is more active, your left side or your right side, your intuitive side or your logical side, as to where you are. And then what you really want is to have both of to breathe through both nostrils. There are meditations whereby you block one side and just breathe through one side, or you block the other and breathe through the other side.
Yeah, when I came across that part, I started trying to see which nostril was strong, and
Right.
just my general thought about meditation and reading that whole chapter on meditation and the different styles, and we're martial artists, so now I'm interested in Tai Chi as a form of meditation, and we practice a little yoga on the weekends with some people.
Oh, that's good.
And meditation is truly a tool not used enough.
Do you realize, when I was reading some stuff this morning, do you realize there are people who actually see meditation, yoga, Tai Chi, and other methods of concentration and stillness as evil, as dangerous? Yeah. They actually say this is satanic.
Well, it's dangerous if you don't know what you're doing, if you're not, like you say, taking your time, if you're not researching. Yeah, then it's dangerous. But if you're just on the outside looking in,
There are people my point is that there are orders or groups that really do not want people to meditate. It opens the door. Every time I was listening to Dr. Gibson last night, and he was talking about his experience and how he started meditating when he was 12, and I thought that was interesting because you started at 12 and now you're in your 50s or whatever. I mean, you've been in it for a minute.
Yes, sir.
And most people I talk to listen to his wife Kathy Gibson, and she was talking about how she began. It began with meditation, and they begin to grow from there, and everything else. So meditation is very important. It changes your reality. It opens you up to a greater reality, which leads to the conversation. Oh, before I get to that, they mentioned had a great thing on altars, because one of the ways that you do make contact in meditation is that, and with higher beings, is that you set up a portal of communication, which is called your altars. And I think, let me not going to go through it, but let me just tell people that that's very important. And there's an important book going to come out soon about how to construct and how to use your altars. And I think we can look for it. That's written by Dr. Gibson. And it'll be coming out, I guess, soon, within the next 4 or 5 months, I guess.
Be looking forward to that.
That'll be good. But anyway, when you begin to open up your reality, and you begin to see higher realities, and you begin to practice meditation, it causes a change in you. But more importantly, it affects and causes changes in people around you. Now I say this for the end because I think this is probably the most, guttural, more emotional and relatable experience that we all have had, that people have, is that when you begin to change, it affects the people around you, most likely, most commonly, your family, your relationships with friends. Can any of you talk about that in terms of what you read in the book and your own personal relationships, as how your life and your relationships have been impacted, because of the awareness that you're walking in now?
I can think of a couple of I'll bet because we're human, you naturally think about a few negative things, negative ways people have responded. But on the positive, I have a coworker who, I was taking him home. We take turns taking each other back and forth to work, and I was taking him home, and I schedule a change yet again, and And I had a positive resolve about it. And he says to me, what's up with you in 2014? He says, you seem to have just a go with the flow attitude. You know, you're not getting upset and angry anymore. You know, and I was telling him, I told you, 2014 is I'm working on myself. I'm working on my inside, and I'm not going to let anything frustrate me, especially when it comes to something that I asked for. I asked for the job, so why would I now become upset about things that the job is throwing my way? You know, it's just something that I'm learning to do within me, and I think that was a positive. You know, they gave me fuel for my fire, so to speak. And then on the flip side, you know, we can talk about family, and you know, I have some family members who, you know, almost say that I'm practicing witchcraft or something. You know, when I talk about some of the things that, you know, burning sage and things of that nature to change the energies. And I'm talking energies, I'm talking spirituality, and that kind of, you know, people they attack what they're afraid of. They attack what they don't understand. And I understand that.
Let me ask you this, if you don't mind. Because these are people that you truly do care about.
Absolutely.
When people accuse you falsely of and throw, you know, names at you, you know, misname what you're doing and everything, how do you respond to them?
At first, you know, I went off. At first, I kind of, you know, I had an attitude about it, but that was, you know, I'm becoming better at that. Now, in that chapter, she was saying that, Miss Larsen was saying that when a person is not accepting of it, or they're not, you know, they're not trying to even work with the concept that you're talking about or demonstrating, to just leave them alone or to just bag off. You know, they have their own spiritual path, and it's just as important as your own. So that's what I'm learning to do. I've learned to do even before reading it in the book. I'm learning to, you know, take a step back and listen. And you know, even in the book, she says that to do that, to listen to what their opinion is about what it is that you're doing, because that's, again, part of the process. And so more and more I'm doing that now. Now it's a more positive, now it's a more, you know, so, okay, well, why do you feel that way type deal with me, instead of, you know, they're calling me a name, and now, well, you just don't understand, and this, that, and the third, and now, you know, I'm just basically, you know, wasting my time, or wasting my energy. Not wasting my time, but wasting my energy in a negative way.
Now, you and Florence are obviously husband and wife.
Yes.
And so, how has this idea of spirituality impacted your relationship to her and your relationship to him? How has it impacted it?
My wife was part of this church. I had to start there. Was part of GEBC when I met her, and she was already on a different spiritual path. I wasn't in church. I wasn't part of a spiritual group, and so at first, it was some of the things that Ms. Larsen went through with her husband. When she said that, when she talked about how she became frustrated with, she had a lack of desire to watch certain things, to listen to certain music, and he was still into those things, and she would just gradually leave the room without explaining why to him, and that frustrated him. So she became, you know, she faulted herself because she's never really just broken it down for him, and that's kind of what happened. What was happening between she and I. You know, there were certain things she was doing, certain practices, certain meditations she was wanting to get into, and she was practicing. And I'm like, you know, I'm in the living room flipping the channel, and you know, I'm watching a certain thing. She turns her head from it. The same things that Miss Larsen was going. So it started like that. But when I was introduced to yourself, and then, you know, Shelly and I go back, you know, to high school, and there was some familiarity right there, and then I started gradually coming around. I don't know if Miss Larsen's husband is doing some of the same things, but she said in the book that she respects his beliefs and he respects hers, and it's a mutual understanding. Fortunately, between my wife and I, we're on the same somewhat of the same path. Now she still does a lot more meditating, a lot more spiritual practices than I do. But I think with us reading the book and being in this grouping, that we now understand that, you know, her path is her path and my path.
I think that actually, because I think that's a very good observation.
Mm-hmm.
And actually that was one of the purposes of even that I came up with. I was led to even have people to read this book with us, because I felt that it would help people to grow together.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at a triangle, you know, the furthest points in the triangle are where?
Top.
No, the furthest
I mean,
points
or at the bottom.
at the bottom.
Yeah.
So if you have like man over here, woman over here,
Okay,
at
so
the
what
base
you're
of the triangle, they are the furthest apart.
Right.
But if you have a common aspiration to reach a certain level of what we call Christ consciousness, notice those who are on the furthest end, the man and woman, as they have the same mission and goal, what happens?
You meet at the
They
top.
get closer.
Mhm.
And that's the whole point. And I think that that's the whole point of how the two become one. That's the mystery of the two becoming one flesh. Is that they become one in Christ, if you will, the one in the consciousness of this higher awareness. And so that's one of the good things. But that's not true for all.
Yeah.
Sometimes your growth can mean the end of a friendship,
A relationship.
of a relationship. And I think that one of the things that happens as the reason why we do meet in groups and the reason why we do socialize in this world with people who are of different levels of awareness and consciousness, I think it works not just on them, I think it works on us.
Oh, yeah.
Challenging our ego, challenging our pride. It is a test to a lot of extent to see if you're really internalizing what you are studying,
Right.
you know. And so I think that's a very important thing, because you have to make decisions sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, in your spiritual growth, in your relationships, you know, what if that person that you're friends with or in a relationship with is totally disrespectful, totally, you know, disregarding their own spiritual growth and want you to sabotage yours for their friendship? What do? Many people have that dilemma in their relationships. I have truly seen where a couple, if you will, where one person is growing and going in a different direction and in a different speed. In other words, they changed. They don't curse, or they don't drink, or they don't want to do some of the same things because they're having a different relationship. They're evolving. And it actually causes the end of a relationship. So, how do you deal with that? What choice do you make?
That's the big question.
Yeah.
That's the big question. I mean, that's.
It can divide children from parents.
Yeah. You know, you start weighing it, and you start to analyze your own spirituality. How strong is your desire? Leading back to the
Right.
last, how strong is your desire to want to be enlightened and get closer to the Creator? You know, how strong is it? Is it strong enough to sever the ties, to, you know, cut the relationship short, or is that relationship more important than you
Or
know?
maybe there's a sense whereby you are there to learn something. You know, you are there in that relationship even though it is unequally yoked, or it's not feeding you what people get in a relationship for. A relationship is about, you know, group consciousness. It's about, you know, reciprocity to each other. And yet you're in an environment whereby you're on different wavelengths, different thoughts. You know, what do you do? These are some things I think there are some real nut and bolts type of realities that I really enjoy reading that chapter on relationships. You know, you know, and so and I think another thing is it shows you the importance of why fellowshipping and having people of like mind to relate to everything is so important. I mean, because you go to work, you know, and you're around people who they can discern when you're not on the same, you know, path that they're on.
That's right.
They become very critical. They can become very political.
Yes.
I think one of the more important things, and I think everyone probably have a different, you know, heavy weight coming out of these, something that sticks with them the boldest. But one of the things that sticks with me about the relationship chapter was allowing that person to do their thing, so to speak, allowing that person to grow with their own way, not bombarding them with your beliefs and your practices.
Right.
If they don't agree with you 100%, that's okay.
That's okay.
You know, you don't judge them and you know, they could be on a faster track than you are, and you don't know it. You know.
Right.
Or you know, or not. But again, that's okay. And I think that's the thing that sticks with me the most with saying what you just said about going to work and you know the things that we're talking about. And you go there and you have a person that's cursing. You have a person who's becoming angry and upset at the smallest thing. You have a person who's talking their self to death, literally, like using their words to the point where they're cursing their families. They're cursing themselves daily.
Cursing their own homes.
And you want to say something, and maybe you do. Maybe you did at one point, and you know now that person don't even come to you, or don't even want to converse with you because of the way you are, because you're so this, you're so that. No, he wants to go and socialize with someone who's going to fuel his fire, who's going to be like, yeah, you're right, and this, that. So you have to be patient and let them do. You know,
there's a wisdom that we have to attain to.
It sure is.
And that is knowing how to manage yourself, how to manage your information. One of the things that is very common in all of us is that you can be so convicted by what you're learning and what you're experiencing, and you know it's good, you know it's right, because of your own personal experience, that you can become too evangelistic. You know what I mean when I say that? You can try to want to convert your children, convert your mom and your dad, convert your husband, your wife, convert your friend, because you want them to have what you have, because it's coming out of a sense of love, you know, because you want them to have it. But I learned something from Bobby Hemmett that he said. Bobby Hemmett is a metaphysical teacher who's very popular in the Afrocentric conscious movement. And he said, we all don't wake up at the same time. In other words, that's kind of like what you were saying, is that you have to let people have their own experience. You know, and we see this when we get very impatient as adults with our children. You know, children, you know, are children, and they're gonna do childish things. They're gonna think childish thoughts, and at the appropriate time of their awakening, they will awake. So my philosophy is more and more beginning to realize it's just simply to plant the seed. Let someone else plant it, and in the proper time, God will give the increase. And just let it be. To let that person wake up in their appointed time. Let that person wake up in their appointed time. Anybody have anything else they want to add to about relationships, anything? Meditation or access and spiritual growth? Okay, if not, then we're gonna shut it down here. Well, we down to this is the next to the last entry of this book. Next time we come together, it'll be the final 3 chapters, and we will conclude with keys to unlocking your inner power. So until then, have a great day, have a great time, and we'll see you at the next episode.